Welcome everyone to this May's third Thursday seminar training event. My name is David Stephens, Laser Dave here. If you haven't come to my seminar, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. Today's seminar is on gifts and personalization. We're going to cover all that is in that marketplace on how to kind of personalize, create gifts, items, trends, markets, details on kind of how to create a business all the way through different trends and capabilities within this marketplace. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to post those questions. And at the end of the course, I will have Darrell Stephens, our sales manager, that's going to join me, and we can help answer any of those questions that you might have during this course. So let's go ahead and move forward and get going on today's course titled Gifts and Personalization. So today's course on gifts and personalization is kind of all around. I built this course specifically for those of you folks out there that either do this for a living or for folks that maybe are looking to get into this course or into this marketplace, maybe looking to expand your laser business or even start a laser business specifically for the gift and personalization market. Lasers and gifts and personalization go together very, very well because of the way the technology works. And so this course is really going to kind of outline the whole gamut, should you have not had a laser and maybe want to get into it to do it, all the way through you folks that maybe have existing lasers and want to know new trends, new capabilities, new markets maybe within this type of market. So if you've never joined me before, a lot of my seminars will require or utilize QR codes. QR codes are a great method to help you identify different links and locations. So if you've never used a QR code scanner, just turn on your camera app, point the camera at the QR code, but don't take a photo, and a link will show up on your screen. Select that link to get quick and easy access to web links, files, and videos that I will provide. We are also a very social company. If you want to be kept up to date with new products, new capabilities, trainings, applications, materials, scan any one of these QR codes and subscribe to your favorite social media platform. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Twitter. So let's get moving here on gifts and personalization. Gifts and personalization for holidays, birthdays, company party, are personalized items and sentimental gifts. A name, a date, company logo, can take everyday objects and make it something sentimental. That's what personalization really does for you. However, this market is very diverse as new trends, products, pop cultures, causes constant shifts for it to become basically can be a very lucrative business if you work with kind of understanding how these trends work to become profitable. I'm going to go from basic, pop culture type products to production in this course. We're going to cover a little bit of everything, giving you a basic understanding of exactly what it does, how it works, as well as some of the trends, like I said, for producing the best possible profit margins within this marketplace. The outline of today's course is going to kind of go with the assumption that some of you folks out there may not have a laser or may be looking to get into this market. So how to start and basically start a promotional gifts and personalization business. What materials that within the products that you want to use and what products and materials you want to avoid. Product and personalization choices. Low-cost lasers that are proven for a quick, laser files that are quick for a quick return. How to bundle, how to price your products, different trending applications for high demand and quick revenue, how to distinguish yourself from the competition, and laser technology for high volume production for those of you folks that are looking to take it to that next level. And then lastly, I'll finish up with, of course, some resources, some products, as well as locations of where you can get some of these types of products and applications and materials. So starting a promotional and gift production business, that's going to be the first bit. I mean, if you're just dabbling into it, or if you're looking to buy a laser for that, or if you maybe want to expand it a little bit more, there's a few things that you want to know before you kind of just jump in heads first with this type of marketplace. First, of course, do your homework. Understand your customers and solicit feedback on an ongoing basis. Develop and nurture your understanding of what you do better than your competitors. And subscribe to trade publications to keep into current industry trends. This is very important because within marketplaces like personalization, really staying with industry trends is what's going to make you successful in this marketplace. I mean, just because you can engrave pens doesn't necessarily mean that there's not 10,000 other companies that are already doing that. You want to stay into trends, pop culture features, capabilities that this marketplace tends to produce a much more lucrative return. And that's the difference of understanding. So understand your core values, identify a short list of customer-centric values, and communicate what you want to do for your customers, and then stick with it. So that's kind of the marketing must for a small business, or pretty much any small business, but especially the personalization market. Make a plan, worry about your image. Basically, marketing plans, make sure you got a good logo, develop messaging that communicates your benefits, promote your business at local events to reinforce your brand by staying involved with your community. Again, everything when it comes to personalization is typically local. It's pretty rare that you'll get that big one from overseas or that big product ordering from different states. Most personalization tends to happen on a more local state. The one best method that we have found to kind of understand that and keep up with your customers is to become a social media expert. I know some don't like social media. Others really like it, I think, too much. But social media can be a powerful tool because it is the most efficient way to communicate with your customers. And it's free. That's the benefit. So use it to promote your new products, your sales, your events. Also respond to all your messages and make sure you do that in a timely manner. In this day and age, if you let a comment or something like that sit out there in cyberspace for a long period of time, it can be detrimental to companies' an image that you don't respond quickly. So definitely take care of your customers. Stay up with your social media, especially in this market segment. Now, of course, having a business, the best aspect and the reason that we are kind of helping you with this process is because when you start a personalization business, you want to invest in trusted, high quality, long lasting, high speed technology. And that technology is what's going to boost you into a successful, profitable business. And with Trotec, we have designed with one goal in mind: to make you more profitable. Trotec lasers dramatically produce productivity, improve product quality and value, with a broad range of processing capabilities, allow you to meet a wide range of customer needs. Lasers, in my opinion, are the most diverse product on the planet, meaning that it can do more different segments, markets, materials, products than any other technology out there. So you're not limited to, there's nothing wrong with something like an embroidery machine, but all they do is embroider. You can embroider on a few different types of materials, but it's not going to cut. It's not going to mark. It's not going to engrave. It's not going to do a lot of these materials. So when it comes to investing in technology, you may add embroidery machines and printing technology to it, but a laser is probably your best tool to get started in this industry because it's going to give you the most diversity. And you want a laser system that's going to give you that direct support, as well as peace of mind that it's going to last and give you years of continued use with profitable returns. In addition to laser technology, there are a few features and accessories and stuff that you're going to need. If you're just getting into this, the one thing that I do suggest is invest in a good software. Software is going to be the key in running all of your products, especially from a laser standpoint. Yes, there are some free softwares out there, but they're going to be highly limited. So in most cases, I would suggest either CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator. These are diverse, all-around graphic design softwares. I would say close to 75 to 80% of all laser owners, whether they're Trotec or other brands, utilize CorelDRAW. It has just evolved that way, and the software has evolved with features and capabilities more to run hardware. Adobe Illustrator works pretty well as well. And the benefit of these two softwares is they do most type of graphics. They can handle photographs and bitmaps and JPEGs and PNGs, as well as your vector graphics. Now, if you're just cutting, if you're just planning on doing cutting and not a lot of like photographs and stuff like that, AutoCAD is a great alternative, especially if you already know it. And then there's some other specialty ones like Engraved Lab, which is specifically designed for the laser industry. And then you have kind of into that ecosystem specifically, but there's not a lot of online content when it comes to some of these other ones like Engraved Lab or Bartender. Stay away from some of your free ones, especially if you're really starting a business. Compatibility is another issue. Customers are going to send you files from all different software formats and stuff like that. And so softwares like CorelDRAW and Illustrator will give you the most diversity in handling all those formats. The other thing with a laser system, it must have an exhaust system. Exhaust system removes the dust and gas created during the laser processing and pushes it outside. Filter systems will filter odors through its filters, ensuring safe and clean operation through your laser equipment. The correct exhaust system configuration is imperative for the safety of the operators and the laser and is an absolute must. So these are things, especially if you're just looking to get into it, are an absolute must in order to for your laser system to work combined with software. Now, there are a few accessories that I'm going to recommend if you are going into the personalization market. Air Assist is if you're planning on doing any cutting or dirty engraving, such as rubber stamps and stuff like that, is an absolute must. So I'm only going to go through just a couple accessories that I would highly recommend if you wanted to get into this marketplace that you invest in. Air Assist is going to reduce your flames during cutting, helps to direct the debris away from the optic, and flushes the optics to keep them clean. So it doesn't have to be used, but once it's installed on the systems, most Trotec laser systems are sold with Air Assist included, but there is the possibility of not having it. But in this marketplace, I do truly recommend that you get this accessory. Another very popular one for, of course, the gifts and personalization is the Rotary. Rotary is the ability to engrave 360-degree around objects, cylindrical, conical objects like glasses, pens, bottles, stuff like that. And so this is imperative because a laser beam is parallel. In other words, it shoots straight down. So if you need to rotate around something, or if you have an object that is round, the laser beam is going to eventually just go off the edge and go out of focus. And so a Rotary allows for continuous rotation around an object so you can get that engraving into the glasses and cups and bottles and cylindrical type objects that are out there, especially in this marketplace. And then finally, a cutting table. Cutting table is necessary, especially if you're planning on doing a lot of cutting or dimensional type cutouts or signage or any of the personalization type products like you see here, little gift products. We offer a lot of different cutting tables. The most popular is our aluminum slat or our aluminum cutting grid table located in the lower right hand corner here. It is the one that I pretty much leave in my laser 90% of the time, unless I am doing some other material or cutting thick acrylic where I want to use like the acrylic slat cutting table or grid cutting table. We do have other options, but in most cases, the aluminum cutting grid is kind of that all-around cutting table that can be engraved on, it can be cut on, it's very rigid, and it is the most popular. Another one, especially in this marketplace, is understanding your lenses. Laser systems have all different lenses, and this is no different than, say, an expensive camera system with multiple lenses that you can buy on it. Some people do not understand what lenses are, how they're going to benefit you, but most laser systems tend to come with one lens, and that lens tends to be like our standard 2.0-inch lens. The 2-inch lens is kind of an all-around lens, but Trotec produces several different lenses. And on the CO2 side, it has 4 different lenses, a 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 4. These lenses will give you the ability for more diversity within the materials. And so if you're doing a lot of photographs, for example, and you want to do your gift items and a lot of photography, I would invest in a 1.5. It's going to give you the smallest beam diameter, therefore the greatest engraving detail. And then as we go up in lens distance, we have a trade-off. The trade-off is from quality of dot size to tolerance. So the longer the lens, the more the tolerance. But with the greater the tolerance, the larger the spot size. And so we are not able to actually achieve as much detailed engraving, but we can deviate around something like this skateboard deck that I have here. Skateboard decks are definitely not flat. And if you want to engrave all the way across that skateboard deck, a 4-inch lens would be recommended because it can handle more deviation of focus, where a 1.5-inch lens would go so far out of focus, you probably wouldn't even see the engraving as it deviated. And that's the difference. However, the detail on something like a skateboard deck isn't as imperative as, say, a photograph. Now, if you wanted to engrave a photograph on a skateboard deck, you could not do it across the entire location of the deck, and that's some limitations. But understanding the different lenses, distances, sometimes you just need the ability to handle a mug handle, for example. You may want to go to the 2.5-inch lens so that when the mug handle rotates on your rotary, it doesn't hit your focus head. So distance and calibration like that. And so that's just where the lenses are going to benefit you within the personalization marketplace. Another one that is increasingly popular and available on most of the Speedy line of the Trotec brand is the JobControl Vision. This is a camera registration software that literally takes an object that has been printed, and if that object that has been printed with registration points or little black dots around it, the camera registration will actively find those dots and then register your design cut file so that it gives you an absolutely perfect cut. This allows you to print on paper and acrylics and woods and plastics, or adhere paper or sublimation to materials like plastics and woods, and then use the laser to give you that physical product that is cut out with dimension. This is an increasingly high trending application. And if your laser is ready for vision, this is something that I would suggest you invest in if you're looking for new market trends to benefit your existing personalization or gift business. The other one I wanted to showcase here real quick is our brand new Ruby software. This is still beta, but the new Ruby software is just it's the future of seamless laser processing. This is where Trotec's software is going. The Trotec Laser Ruby software is basically a software that gives you more control, more ability. It gives you the ability to import files directly, optimize cut files. It'll work from Windows and Mac. It is a web-based driver. So you'll have the ability to keep an eye on your laser system from your phone or your tablet, knowing your job times up front. You can manage roles and user rights if you have employees. Connect lasers to your network, third-party PLC abilities. And so if you have automation you have to hook up to, these are all features. This software currently comes with the latest version of JobControl, which is our current version of software, and our Ruby version. Now, later this year, the full version will be out. If you want to give it a try right now, if you scan this QR code in the lower right-hand corner, it'll give you a video tutorial on exactly what it does, how it works. You can use this software simultaneously with your existing software. So if you're comfortable with JobControl and you want to dabble into what's coming, what's new, feel free to go ahead and scan this, download it, give it a try. I find that there are a lot of features in it that are not on some of the other softwares, and it's going to just improve your processing capabilities, speed certain things up, improve your lasers capabilities, and also give you a lot more control over future possibilities. So definitely scan this QR code if you are interested in the new Ruby software and maybe want some of these new features and capabilities. So next, for this marketplace, there are a lot of different materials and products that I suggest that you use in this marketplace, others that I suggest you avoid. These are materials that are not as profitable. And what I have found in the gifts and personalization market, in order to get the most bang for the buck, the most money out of that time that you stick that product into the laser, and that is to stick with materials with a high perceived value. These materials will, by definition and by experience, give you a higher return on your investment. So stay away from some of the synthetic materials. I always suggest sticking with natural materials. Natural materials have that high perceived value, such as natural A-grade woods. You know, stay away from the low-grade knotty pines, you know, unfinished type stuff. It's just not going to look as good. Higher the quality of the wood, and the fact that it's natural is something that you're going to want to use. Stone. Stone isn't always, of course, high perceived value. Darker stones are, of course, going to engrave with a lighter response. And so the darker the stone, the better the contrast. So like the owl you see here with the photo on it, that would be a nice 12 by 12 inch piece of polished black marble stone tile that was designed for a floor, but instead had an owl engraved on it. Glass, leather, metals, mother of pearls, natural fibers like denim and silk. Stay away from your synthetics. They're not going to be able to give you the engraving. Now, most fabrics will cut, but it really also depends on, of course, what you're doing, what markets. But if you want the most bang for the buck, stick with the more natural materials for the best return on investment. Now, there are also materials that are synthetic. Synthetic materials that have shown to have a high perceived value are going to be JDS's new Leatherette is one. It's got that luxurious look and feel. It's a great material. But it's not real leather, but it looks like it. It feels like it, but yet it engraves with the contrast that is engineered into the material. Mirrored acrylic looks and feels just like glass. But yet can be laser cut and engrave. And you can engrave on the front of the mirror, the back of the mirror. You can color fill it. You can inlay it. It's a great material to work with, and it maintains that high perceived value. Glitter acrylic, glass edge, and exotic edge acrylics also, especially like the frosted ones and stuff like that, really do have that wow factor to them. They don't stand out as being that low grade, cheap plastic. And speaking of low grade, and that's the ones you want to avoid. When it comes to products, really stay away from some of the low grade thermoplastics. Plastics that tend to melt in your laser. They don't produce a lot of engraving contrast. Unless you're making like stencils or making real basic stuff or structural stuff out of these materials, I don't suggest using them for physical gift items. Stay away from like your raw MDFs and particle board woods. If you have a plaque engraved on a solid piece of cherry wood or a piece of particle board, you're going to get the time that it takes to engrave will be exactly the same, but your return on something like a nice cherry wood will be much greater than, say, MDF or particle board. Now, if that MDF has a veneer coating that looks like cherry, then you're great. It looks fine as long as that perception is there. Also, low quality glued or laminated materials. Some of the plaques I've seen out there, yeah, they're solid wood, but they're glued together with 10 different pieces to make one plaque. Those glue seams tend to produce lines when you engrave through them, and it can really produce a shoddy looking finished product. And so low quality, typically low cost, spend a little bit more on your materials if you are creating your design from the get-go, or if you're buying physical items, stick with your stone items, your leather items, your wooden items instead of the plastic ones. You're going to see a much greater return come from from your time and effort in designing your file, sticking it in the laser, engraving, cutting, marking that material, and then selling it to a customer on your Etsy shop or your website or your online type scenario, or even your storefront. So now we have a few personalization, product and personalization choices. Choices are everything. And something I interviewed a lot of people that do this type of product. Just because I kind of have a pulse on this, I don't necessarily do personalization since I run the laser lab here for Trotec, but I do talk to a lot of customers that do that. And also I've been doing this for 22 years. So I have a pretty good sense of what works, what doesn't. And so the few mistakes that I do suggest, one is charge for your graphic design time. I understand if there's a huge potential, but always charge for your time that it takes to create some kind of personalized graphic or design. That is a mistake a lot of people will make. Another is to limit the choices for your customers. Don't give them 500 fonts because they will go through all 500 fonts. Give them 10 or 15 a very diverse font list and say, hey, can you pick from these? You will find 9 times out of 10 that they will be fine with one of those 10 and you can move forward. It just makes things more simplified, easier. Customers feel like they got a choice, but yet you didn't overwhelm them with too many choices. Same with clip arts or graphics that they may want to choose. Also charge for your setup time, your fee for custom work. I know when you're setting up a job, you have a job for 2 or 3 products, you're going to charge a lot more for those 2 or 3 products, especially if you have to create the design, you have to build the fixture, and you have to cut that setup out. So give them a sliding scale and say, okay, well, we'll do 10 of them, but it's going to cost you quite a bit more because I have to build all this. But if we do 100 or 500 or 1,000, there's going to be price breaks because now that fixture, that setup, the file, the design has already been done. So I would suggest also, especially for personalization, customization, to charge for a one-time fixture or setup cost for the higher volume time stuff, because it is time consuming to build fixtures. It's time consuming to set all that up, to pay for the materials to do this, to do that fixtures, and it can take several hours. So make sure you include that, including your time. I mean, you've spent a lot of time and effort designing and developing your skill set in running your graphic design software, and that time is worth it. So spend or charge a little bit for those personalization, for customization type products. So there are quite a few different benefits out there that some people don't know about. And the one thing that I have kind of explored recently and talked to a lot of customers that are doing personalization out there is they've given up on trying to design their own files. Why would you spend hours and hours and hours designing something that you think might sell? Instead, there are so many companies out there now that do this for you. And the cost that it would produce to make these files out of your own pocket using your own time, and whether or not it's going to work is unknown. And so this is what I suggest is right now, companies like Etsy, Laser Library, Make CNC, these have thousands. I mean, Etsy alone has over 126,000 laser files. And most of these files are $3 to $5. Some can be as high as 10 for the really advanced ones. But the benefit of this is that they take all the effort out of it. They've created them. The files are typically done with instructions. They're in multiple file formats. They're ready to go. I've downloaded and purchased a few myself, and it saves me a massive amount of time. And so those files are in 3 different material thicknesses if they like dovetail together, for example. They are in multiple formats, and so like a CDR, an AI, SVG, DXF, and PDF formats, all of the above. And so that is the benefit. You download it, you spend the $3 or $4, and they won't let you resell the file, but you can sell the finished product. And so here's a few examples of ones I just pulled right off of the Etsy page of some of the top sellers. These are ready to go laser files. They're gift items. You can quickly and easily grab them, download them, spend the $2 or $3, and then now you can put them on your own Etsy shop for physical sale of the physical item, or your own website, or in your storefront. And so it allows you to very, very quickly find trends, and you can tell by looking for like best-selling files. If a file is selling really, really well, there's probably a reason for that, because that file is popular. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's popular in your location. And so if you were to take that trend, know that the file already works, you know that it's laser friendly, you know what materials it tends to work on, files prepped and vetted for you, you've only spent $3 to $4 on it, and now you can put it into your store window, your website, your Etsy shop, and start selling it and shipping these physical items all day long, personalized, edited, modified, and you can adjust these files all you want. And it is a great, quick method for a quick return with very little cost up front. And again, most of them are offered in multiple formats. So this is a great selection, especially for the folks out there that maybe don't want to design, or you don't want to do that. There's more and more of these files coming up, people that just sit there and create, design, and develop files specifically for this industry. Another method for improving your return on investment of materials and applications is to bundle. I got this from several different customers that do this, and they said, yeah, you can sell one item or 10 items of one physical items, but if you bundle items together, you can see 2 to 3 times the return on that. And what this means is package your gifts and personalizations together to give you a greater profit. When you have that perception of value, by instead of just engraving the glass, you engrave the cups or the coasters and the box and the trivets and all the other stuff. And then in addition to laser, if you have complementing technology like sublimation or printing technology or embroidery machine, include shirts and hats and other products with it. And when you bundle them all together, it is going to produce, a much higher perceived value. And here's a good example. So yes, you can take a wine bottle and we can engrave that wine bottle. But instead, let's take that wine bottle and let's take the same logo in this case and let's engrave it on 2 wine glasses, a couple different leatherette coasters. And then let's take a really nice high-end box and let's engrave that same graphic onto that box so that we now have an entire kit. So we're now taking something, a wine glass, you may make, double the value, you may make $10 or $20 on it, but now we're turning the kit into making $300 or $400. And the overall time that it took to create all this type of stuff is a little bit more time, but the return on investment for creating kits like this. And now if you include something with your complementative technology, like you say, if you have an embroidered shirt that can go with it, you match that with it. If you have printing technology, you match that with it as well. And you put it together, not necessarily in a box like this, but it could be a basket of products. And that combined product offering will yield a much, much greater return. And all the customers that I have talked to do this, they've stopped doing single items. They're now doing bundle packages because they have found it to be considerably more profitable. Now, the next segment comes into pricing. How do you price products? And this is a kind of a loaded question. It can be a difficult question. Customers are willing to pay higher prices for products with personal dedication. Prices for items with individual laser engraving should be determined by the price of the product achievable on the market. This is common for the end customers. It's common for the end customers to spend up to 5 to 10 times the standard product price for personalization. And the more unique, exotic, or rare the item, the higher the price. And that is very, very true. You get something like some of these examples I have at the bottom here, laser engraved violins and wooden lamps and, images on cutout papers and pop out items that are just very, very unique. They're different. They have that exceptional perceived value that somebody's going to pay well beyond the amount of laser time it is. Now, if you're just engraving something like a pen, of course, your profit margin is going to be down. But something like a pen it could be different. It could be, you don't want to use a low-end pen. I even think about bundling something like a pen. And so instead of buying just a standard pen, buy one with a flash drive and a laser pointer built in. It's going to add more value to that pen. Here's some basic pricing examples. How to price his ballpoint pen, $1.50. Engraving time is about 15 seconds. Engraving cost is about 25 cents. Labor cost 11 cents. But retail for the finished product in a display case would be about $15 for a really high-end or a nicer looking physical product. And therefore, if you're running 150 of them, your profit margin is going to be higher. I do suggest also a sliding scale for volume type applications. So if you're doing one, in this case, it's just taking that same single cost and then extending it to multiple. I wouldn't personally do that as much as, say, okay, for 100 units or 50 units, I will do it at a price break of, instead of $15 a pen, I'm going to do it for 10 on average. And, and if you're doing, 500 pens, then maybe I'm going to do it for $7. And so, but based on what you feel is profitable and beneficial to you, because the more time your laser's running, the more efficient it becomes, and especially if you've got a fixture and everything set up for that. And so these are things you want to keep in mind. Most of the time, the cost margin for doing that, for making laser stuff, on a lower end laser, most of the customers I have talked to sell out, build their laser out at about $1 a minute. So if you have an entry level laser, one of those laser systems that kind of entry into the market, you're going to see about $1 a minute. If you've got a mid-level machine, kind of like our Speedy 360 and our Speedy 400 type products, you're probably looking about $2 a minute. because not only are the machines faster, but they do cost a little bit more. So you need to build that into the cost. And they will produce 2 to 3 times some of the productivity, some of the lower ones in. And so at the end, you may be charging more per minute, but the product or your laser system will produce more per hour. And so therefore the customer is actually getting a lower cost. Our really high-end products, laser systems and galvo systems for super high productivity can be 10 times faster. And in those cases, they can be, $10 a minute. But the benefit is you're producing 10 times the product. Or maybe you charge 8 times, $8 a minute. But at the end of the day, the customer's paying more or paying less because your productivity is also faster. So it is a math problem. How fast can it be produced versus how much you spent? How much is the original cost of the product? You always want to build that into it. And then, kind of identify where your price point is. And it's also depending on your region. Region can make a difference on pricing. So if you're in a rural location, and a lot of times you're not going to be able to get as much because of the demographic of the area. If you're in a high-end area where you're selling more high-end products, you're going to get a little bit more for it, but it's also going to cost you more to be there. And so that can also be the difference. My suggestion also is if you're trying to get into a marketplace, sell specific gift items, maybe go online, sell or even contact a few competition and get some quotes and see what they're selling it for, because you don't want to be drastically lower than your competition, but you also don't want to be drastically higher. You want to stay competitive in your marketplace so that you can have a pretty level playing field. So contact and do some research, make sure you understand what that product, if it's going for too low of cost versus the cost of the unit, it may not be worth doing. So maybe find a product that is better suited. And that's the benefit of lasers. It does so many different applications that, there may be another product that you can do that's going to give you more of a return on investment. And that's where this next segment is. This is my favorite part. And these are based on research, experience, talking to customers. These are trending applications with high demand and revenue. These are applications that may not be popular in your area, but are coming. Other ones that have kind of saturated or become a little bit more popular. And so here are some very popular applications that can tend to produce a much, much higher return on investment than, say, something that has been saturated, like, engraved pens, as we showed before. This is an extremely popular one. I'm going to kind of show you this process is the profitable aspect of doing checkering. Checkering is the process of actually using the 3D or the relief mode on your laser system to produce grip patterns. And this is a unique and highly personalized application, commonly done on gun stocks, knife handles, fishing rods, sword handles, duck calls, baseball backs, axe handles. I mean, it's been done anything you tend to have a grip, but it also adds a look and a feel to a product that really truly adds high perceived value. And for this process to work, I'm going to show you just a little quick demonstration, start to finish. It is not difficult to do. And so this is running out of CorelDRAW 2020. I'm going to create and show you kind of the whole process of designing a checker pattern and engraving it onto a product here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a square, rotate that square to make a diamond, and then I'm going to just drag that square down to about half the size to create a diamond. It doesn't have to be a diamond. Any shape will work, but I'm going to show you in this case with just a standard diamond, which is a very popular shape for grip patterns. Then in CorelDRAW, under Effects, select Contour. And on your contour screen that pops up on the right side, select to center. And then we're going to put an offset of 0.001, which is 1/1000th of an inch. We're going to fill the object with white and outline, and then we're going to hit apply. What that's going to do is it's going to contour from black to white to the center of the product. And we've now made one grayscale looking diamond. Now I'll select that object and hit Control D while holding Control, making sure Snap is turned on, and then hit Control D again, and it's going to duplicate that offset automatically to that offset. Then I'll select the row. In essence, we're making an array, a group, an entire pattern of these. And then I'm going to select this, hold Control D for duplication, and snap it to the next segment. And then we're going to select that entire row, and we're going to do it again. Duplicate, snap that to the base of that one. And then once that's done, hit Control D over and over again, and it's going to duplicate that offset to give you a pattern. So you want to do this to make it large enough for your product. This is just an example. Once you have the array big enough, and this is just a small example, I'm going to select it. And because the file becomes so large, I will convert it to a 600 dpi bitmap. And that bitmap needs to be grayscale, because every one of these have, 900 lines in each diamond, and so it can really make a difference. Then we're going to take our shape. Once the array is done, we're going to select any shape, create an empty power clip frame, and then we're going to take our bitmap. Here's a larger one that I did before. And then I'm going to just drag that larger array into that. And then I'm going to send that to the laser to engrave. And there you go. We've got a mini gun stock. Simple process. If you want a different one, you can right-click on that array, extract it, of course, move it to a different one, and we can send that to the laser and have that engraved. So that's how simple this process is. And let me show you the full process all the way through. Here's a more advanced graphic that I've designed where I take the same one, and this is for a rifle stock. So I'm going to drag this over the top of the stock, and of course you have to combine together the areas that you want to power clip and then set them as a power clip, and then I'll drop that graphic into this graphic. I traced around it initially by measurement and by design to make sure everything fits. Then I'm going to select all that object, and this time I'm going to take you all the way through the process of pushing print to the laser. Go into your laser system, select the material that we're going to engrave it on. In this case, it's wood. And then walnut wood, which is the type of wood I'm using. I want to turn on relief mode. This is the magic. Relief mode is the 3D mode that varies the laser power based on the shade of grayscale. So the darker the image is, the more deeper it engraves. The lighter the image is, the lighter it engraves to give you that three-dimensional effect. Then I'm going to drag it out to my software, or my JobControl software in this case. And then I'll send it to the laser. I'm going to focus an average in this case. And so I find the high point and the low point, and then I focused in between, and then we just push start using the power settings for the walnut, which is deep enough. I also like to run 1000 DPI to give you a really, really crisp. It's not necessary, but I really like the look that it comes from it. And you can run a little faster because I'm moving more overlap. So physical speed can be faster, but you're more passes. Once that is finished, go ahead and take it out, put a little bit of water onto it, scrub it off, and we have our finished product. Now I'll dry it and then put some gun oil down into the wood to make sure that it's sealed, and then we now have our three-dimensional checker pattern customized. And of course, you could put a logo into this. You can embed a name into this, a personalized type product. But this, the initial setup and kind of once you build the checker patterns and start just dropping them into outlines and then adding a name, the return on investment for this type of application is huge. It's quite amazing what kind of return you can get. Definitely you can offer $2 to $3 a minute for this type of application, not only for the engraving time, and then of course an additional cost for your design time. So definitely a profitable application and highly lucrative if you are interested in this. And the same process holds true, of course, if you're engraving on something like a duck call when you're going all the way around it. This process only works mainly on materials that will support this type of 3D, which is mainly hard, tight grain woods are my favorite. It'll also work on some plastics like acrylics, but most of the time this process is done on woods. And the higher the quality and the tighter the grain the wood is, like this, like the walnut, the better the finished result will look. Another one that has been trending for a while, and this is one I thought would eventually die out, but it never did. And that is vacuum tumblers and growlers. I mean, in the past, we've had trends like scrapbooking in the early 2000s, which hit like a hurricane, but then it died out just as fast. I mean, but this is a trend that is quite amazed me. It's been going on for 10 years. It exploded out in 2010, a little bit earlier than that, and then just kind of kept going. And this is because new looks, colors, styles are constantly coming out. Pop culture is constantly requiring those folks that want this product to have their favorite sports team or their favorite image or logo that is currently hot in trends onto it. Cups also wear out. You know, they become chipped and flake, and they get beat up in the dishwasher, so people need new ones. And so this is a trend that started up really strong. It's extremely profitable. And in addition to, it produces a great return on this. So this is a great application. Vacuum tumblers are just one of it. I mean, there are all different versions of it. Any of the vacuum insulated type products have just exploded. The only thing that is causing a very, very slight downtrend is not the demand. There's still plenty of demand out there. It's just that there's more and more companies out there producing products that are personalized, more laser companies. And that's the only thing that's going to drive it down again. But every customer I've talked to says they can't keep up with these. They are a great product. And I have a nice laser hack here, kind of shows you how to increase your productivity on that. This one is already online, but it's a quick little laser hack that tells you how to do more than one at a time. And so when you're doing vacuum insulated tumblers, the drawback in the past has always been, I put one in the rotary, I engrave it, I take it out. But instead, I found these simple little non-slip silicone coasters on Amazon and thought to myself, well, if I put a little gasket in between them, can I stack them together? And so I purchased them and I tested them, and it worked exceptionally well. All you have to do is just take, typically buy 2 or 3 sets of these so that I can have a couple stacks ready to go. Place the sleeve over the back, and then I just stack them on top of each other, and they kind of just hold themselves together. Then you're going to place them into your rotary. And then you're going to focus onto the average, and then you're going to, of course, design your graphic to support more than one object at a time. And so in this case, I've got 3 graphics, or of course, you can do one single graphic all the way through. Once you kind of build that template for the tumbler, send it to your laser system, and then go ahead and engrave it. So this is going to triple your productivity on a rotary. And the reason is the laser system is processing the same amount of physical back and forth strokes that it would take to do 1 cup, but instead it's doing 3. Yeah, it's taking a little longer stroke, and it does take a bit longer than a single cup, but you also have to account for the time that laser stops, and you have to take 1 cup out, and then you put another one in. This one is only being exchanged out 1/3 the amount of time, which is what gives you that tripled in productivity. So simple application. It's not going to work as great on, say, photographs, or if you're engraving like top to bottom 360, that may not work. But for most of this type of graphics that are required for this type of application, this is an ideal method to really dramatically improve your productivity, and then maybe offer a little bit lower cost than your competition because you know a trick like this, and you can get a little more return from it. And that is the benefit of doing this type of stuff. Real estate agents are loving to give these to, the people that buy their products. Companies are giving them out as promotional gifts. Everybody wants that personalized item on it. Their favorite sports team, their local team, stats, whatever it may be, personalized logos, little sayings, little funds. And that's why these have been so popular and such a popular application. And I don't see this trend ending, potentially. It seems to that it will go on indefinitely. Another extremely up-and-coming trend is the laser cut and engraved jewelry. This is one, especially because there's been so many more low-end, Glowforge style entry-level lasers coming into the market, and there's very, very slow products. And unfortunately, they still want a quick return. And this has been one that has worked really well because those finished products can return very, very quickly, and they don't take a lot of time to create. Sticking with, of course, some of the more common materials, like in the natural materials, like the stones and the woods and the plastics and stuff like that, it really, really has a high perceived value. This is the #1 searched for item on Etsy for laser files. So it is, when you look at the demographics and stuff out there, laser cut or jewelry and stuff like this, little eclectic jewelry is the #1 product out there. You can pick up most of the files for $2 or $3, whether it be pop culture files or like the little beaker bottles here that, made out of the tro glass material it's acrylic that looks like glass. The frosted glass, or you can go to lasersketch.com and get the agate slices or the onyx pieces and stuff like that for the more high-end stuff. And so this is a huge trend. It is something that I would suggest if you haven't get into, and for the gift items. And of course, any one of these items can of course be personalized as well. But these type of products are very, very popular right now, and I don't see them changing anytime soon. It's a trend that is still on the rise from our experience. In addition to that is the epoxy resin. This has been a really fun one. I've had a blast with this one recently. I've used epoxy resin a lot in the past, but it's always been tedious. It's messy. You got to wear all this stuff, and you got to mix all the epoxies, but it's becoming way easier. And the reason is because there's now what's called UV resin out there. And the UV resin, here's a little starter kit that I bought to test this. It's basically the whole little kit for $39, includes the resin, and it's only one resin. There's no mixing parts and stuff like that. So what's happens is that it's a very simple process to do, and then you can cut out a product and make it just beautiful. You combine this little kit with another little kit of like color pigments, and then you can get any color you want. And I've actually created a little video on showing exactly how this works. And so I've taken this simple little, basically I found this cool graphic. I welded a little circle to the top, and then I take that little circle and then I convert it to an outline. So creating an outline now makes it a cut file. Now I'm going to send that to the laser, and I'm going to cut out some real like natural material, little bamboo piece that I have here. So cut out some sustainable wood, bamboo, and then once the lasers cut that out, the finished product could be a product in itself. However, the resin adds just that next level to it. So now I've taken my little piece of bamboo, and then I'm going to take a little bit of this UV resin. It does not take much material. Just throw a few drops in it. I did add a few of I bought a ink set, which is a pigment set, and add a few drops of the pigment set, or the pigment into the resin. Now, if you just want it clear, you don't need to do any of this. You would just pour it right into it. But of course, I wanted a little color right now. I put some tape underneath of it just to keep it from sticking to the table. There are special tapes that work really well, but most of your plastic tapes it won't stick to. And the other nice thing about this stuff is that it domes really well. And doming means the viscosity of the material won't let it flow over the edge. So you take the little rubber tools that comes with it, you just kind of touch it to the end, and it'll dome right there around the actual top of the object. So there you go. And then final step here is you take a torch or just a little lighter and go over the top of it, and it's going to pop all the bubbles, making it perfectly smooth. And then lastly, we'll just take our little ultraviolet light. In this case, I just click the button, and it's going to cure within minutes. And that's the benefit of this stuff. And so it's quick, easy, fast, inexpensive, and it adds a perceived value to your finished product that beyond the laser cutting, and just gives it that wow factor. And so this is a great little product in the gift industry. I'm seeing it explode in the marketplace right now, especially from lasers. And so you can take the physical product. Here's one where I took and filled it with blue, let it cure, and then I went over it with clear afterwards and domed it with clear. So I got that clear finished result. And so I filled it with blue, then I hit the UV light, cured it. And then I filled it with clear, flamed it again, and then put that UV light over the top to do that. And then I cleared it on the other side as well. So I had that shiny, glossy, finished result on both sides of the earrings. And of course, you could do this with not just one, or you can do it with sets all at a time. It was very, very quick, very easy, and I have to admit, quite fun to do. So it's definitely an allure to it. It's greater. It's one thing when you're engraving and cutting something that's kind of boring, that's been out there for a while, but the uniqueness, the different, the ability within this one is it's also very fun to do. Another extremely popular market that exploded and has continuously exploded are electronics and mobile accessories. This is one that can be misconceiving because, or it can be deceiving because there's so much out there. My suggestion to stay profitable in this market and is to stick with high-end products. Stay away from some of the low-end plastic type stuff. Stick with your, solid maple flash drives, or the anodized aluminum power banks, and things that are can be sold. I mean, I talked to a customer that was selling these power banks, these nice power banks, and they engraving their school logos onto them, and they were using them for fundraising. So you could get the school logo on these nice, beautiful power banks, come in all different colors. That is another one. The lower right-hand corner is a customer of ours in Canada, actually, that takes the natural wood and combines it with the same UV resin that I just showed you, and then gives you that finished epoxy resin phone case. High perceived value. I mean, I want one myself, and they're going for $50 a piece. And that's a great return on something that probably cost them $5 for the physical case. If you don't want, to do stuff like that, just physical phone cases, or you go into Etsy and you buy the little file for like the docking station and cut that out as a kit and then personalize it. If you have a fiber laser, the AirPod cases are extremely popular. When you etch them with a fiber laser, it gives that nice grayish looking return. So fiber lasers will beautifully engrave the AirPod cases. Or you can do like the phone amplifier kit right here, which is a great little one for start to finish kit for applications. And so these type of products are very, very popular. And this is the other one, that's just the mouse pad. This is the Leatherette mouse pads by JDS. Also very, very popular. So, I mean, and as you can see here, they engrave beautifully. I like to do 2 passes on some of the Leatherite because I get a little more detail, but you can do it in 1 pass. And then you just take, I like to use a magic eraser over the top with a little bit of water, and it'll take any of that residue right off, and it gives you a beautiful, clean, finished result. The power banks, another very popular one, also from JDS. And so you now have that finished engraved power banks. And these power banks were really cool because on the other side, they have the magnetic charger. So you can just set your phone on top of it. And as long as the new phones will sit on top, it'll automatically power without even plugging them in. Another one is like corporate type gifts. Instead of just giving away a flash drive for promotional items, we do it as a package. So we take the really high-end maple flash drive, engrave the company logo onto it, and put it in the fancy little box. And then now you've dramatically improved that perceived value. If this is delivered to a customer, they're far more apt to open it up, go through it, plug it in, watch the videos onto it, see the portfolio maybe that comes from the customer or the person that is using it, because it has that next level of perceived value. Next trend is this one has been up and coming for about a decade as well, is the light up type stuff. Light up stuff is always popular because it's become so inexpensive, and light up stuff is, of course, eye popping. The other one in the lower left hand corner here, the word Samantha, you can see where I took the epoxy resin and filled it into a white piece of material and then put an LED light behind it. So the epoxy resin now becomes a color pigment, a sign, also a desk, or in this case, it would be a desk plate that actually lights up. You buy a very inexpensive USB strip of LED lights, and you stick it to the back. That's all there is to it. And then they plug right into USB, which charges them, and you can use a micro USB or USB-C type plug-in that powers it. So it's very inexpensive. It's easy to do. You can combine it together. A lot of the acrylics out there that are designed specifically for light up as well. And there's also some gift items, the ones that are like wrist bracelets that literally have batteries in them, and then you light them up when you put them together, and then whatever the engraving is on the surface will shine. These are great and very popular for nightclubs and stuff like that, for personalization, to indicate that you've been approved to go to a specific location, or just for fun. And then, of course, the custom gift sets. That's another one that is extremely popular and trending upwards right now. Gift sets are going to give you that perceived value by package deal. So again, if you have the ability to buy a set, don't just engrave the face or the box, engrave all the components inside. If you have additional supplemental technology like t-shirt printers or sublimatable capabilities or embroidery type technologies, then combine that together with your laser to add that to a package or a bundle. And so you can increase that perceived value and get a better return on your investment. Another one which has been really, really skyrocketing over the last 4 or 5 years has been the Leatherite. This is the JDS Industries has been kind of the pusher on this one. It started out with just a few products like some coasters, and it has exploded. This material, the nice thing about this material is, yeah, it is a synthetic material, but it looks and feels like leather. When you use like the mouse pads or you hold the tumblers with this stuff on it, it has a very, very high perception of value. It feels luxurious and expensive. That's why it's so popular. And every time I go onto the JDS website, it seems like they have more products. They've got all different colors, but I keep seeing it wrapped around more and more products, you know, like the cigar holders and the pens and the mouse pads and the desk accessories. So when it comes to gift items, this is a gold mine. Customers love it. It's inexpensive, but yet it also has a high perceived value. It's got the trifecta, and very few materials have that ability. A synthetic material that looks natural, that engraves, and it's designed for laser engraving, and then also has the perception of value of natural material. So that is the value of this stuff. And then, of course, it engraves beautifully, which gives you the other benefit. So this is one of those trends that is going to grow, and you keep an eye on JDS because you never know what they're going to keep producing. And each time they come out with a new product, the first you are to offer it customized, the better return you're probably going to see on that finished product. And here's another one that is trending down a little bit, but it is still very, very popular and profitable, and that is the commemorative bricks. Commemorative bricks are the ability to actually etch into bricks. This is how, you know, rec centers and buildings and schools and you know, churches and stuff are paid for, because people will pay money, $200 to $300 to buy one brick, and that revenue goes towards building the building. And in trade, they get their name engraved into a brick, which is then built into a walkway or a wall that is to build that building, and therefore it's permanently bonded with their name or company name and stuff onto it. And that's why this is a trend that, you know, really hasn't gone away. Very, very profitable. Laser Sketch sells the really, really nice laserable bricks to do that. But there are some tricks to bricks that you may not know, and I have a little excerpt here video that kind of shows you how to do that. So the thing with bricks is that you can't just engrave bricks, and not all bricks will work specifically for this process. So if you were to just take a logo and engrave it onto a brick, here's what's going to happen. I'm getting some technical difficulty. Okay, so if I engrave directly onto a brick, it's going to look okay, but it doesn't produce as good a contrast that you see before. And so I don't suggest engraving. One, it has to be a clay-based brick. And the clay-based bricks are going to work better. But in order for this to work, the way that I suggest doing bricks is converting it to an outline. And so instead of engraving it, we're going to vector it, just like cutting, but not all the way through. And in this case, in order to get it filled up, we're going to contour it all the way to the center. And so instead of engraving it back and forth like we did before, which is a little faster, but it doesn't produce the contrast. And I'm going to use contour. And I'm going to put an offset in there, and that offset's going to depend on what lens I'm using. So you can see here the list of lenses. So in this case, I'm using a 2-inch lens. So I put an offset of 0.008 thousandths of an inch. And then I'm going to take the laser slightly out of focus, and then I'm going to go ahead and vector it. And so at high power, at low speed, so at 1% speed, 1 kilohertz, and I'm out of focus by 1/10 of an inch or 0.1. And the laser is going to proceed to go around and around and around the object and physically melt that brick. And so that excess heat of vector is actually turning the clay-based brick to black glass. And that black glass is also giving us a subsurface engraving, so a depth into it, slight amount of depth. And so we get that real dark, high perceived looking value into the surface of the brick, you know, and it only takes a few minutes. I mean, these are small little bricks that I'm doing, but they were taking 2-3 minutes. Here's one where I did 2 passes, and it actually starts really causing the glass to start molten, and that molten glass produces a much darker. After you're finished, of course, just take it underwater. They can be a little bit warm, so be careful when you grab them out, because it does kind of absorb some of that heat. But you can see here the really nice dark, kind of glassy looking subsurface engraving into the surface of the brick. And so here we have it, the blank, just the engraved, followed by the vector single pass, and then a vector double pass. So I just did it twice. And so you can see the difference in contrast. And if this was in a walkway or a building or something like that, the vector passes, you can see, really do allow the brick to stand out. The key is don't use off-the-shelf concrete bricks. Laser Sketch sells outstanding bricks here, as you saw in that QR code before. And that brick, those bricks are specifically formulated for laser. What they mean is they have a lot more clay in them. If you do want to use decorative bricks, get the your own just off the shelf from a big box store or place where you would buy bricks. Make sure they're the decorative clay-based bricks. The smoother the surface, the better they're going to laser, because they have more clay in it versus like the concrete ones, which won't work at all. So also the red color is recommended because it's going to give you a black glass. If it's a clay-based brick that's kind of like whitish, when you do this process, it's going to give you clear glass. And the contrast is not going to be there. You'll be able to see it. It's kind of like a watermark look, and it shines in the sun, but it does not have that black contrast that you see on the black. But I've also tried purple bricks, and I've tried green ones. They all work great. Just stay away from the white ones, and stay away from like the concrete, structural bricks. And then the last trend that I have been seeing here is print and cut products. Print and cut has been continuously growing as printing technology has decreased. And then also the cost of adding printing and the camera registration capabilities and ease of use of the software on the laser side has become easier to use. The costs have come down over the years. And combine all that together, it's making for a much easier process of design and combining these two products together. And so this process is basically that of taking the camera registration and then combine that with the printing technology. There's a QR code here you can watch on how I take sublimation technology and sublimate it onto a wooden hardboard and then use the laser to cut it out. Even without a camera registration, like the puzzle here was done without camera registration. You just make your print a little bit larger than you're going to cut, use your red dot pointer to find the corner, and then cut your puzzle out. And so if you have printing technology, even just standard off-the-shelf inkjet printer onto a nice piece of photo paper, and then apply an adhesive backing to the back of that paper, stick it onto a piece of hardboard or MDF or a piece of maybe like black acrylic or clear acrylic, and then maybe laminate it on the surface. And so that's kind of protected. And now you've got a laminated piece of material. Stick that in your laser to cut out your puzzle. Things like puzzles work well, but if you're doing shapes like the little pieces that you see here where they've got to be perfectly cut out, like the guitars and robots and physical items, that's where you're going to require the camera registration. Camera registration finds those little black dots you see on some of the printed products, so that they register and give you that perfect cutout. Okay, well, getting close to being done here. The last one is how to distinguish yourself from the competition. When it comes to personalization, distinguishing yourself from the competition is something that's going to set yourself apart. And the first one here is, making sure your products look good. Most products these days aren't in a store window as much as they are online. So they're in your Etsy shop, they're on your website, they are on your social media platform, and they're on your Pinterest, they're on your Instagram account. And so perception is everything. If your products look good visually, they're going to proceed to making you look better, making sure giving that impression that the engraving is done better, and therefore it's going to give you a higher perceived value. And there are a few things that I suggest that you buy or look into if you're looking to do that. And the really only tool that you need is invest in a photo studio or light box. These are inexpensive tools. You can pick them up on Amazon, ranging from $35 up to $300, but don't go cheap on this. The better the lighting inside these boxes, the better your finished product is going to look. And once you invest in one, they're LED based. They're probably going to last you indefinitely if you take care of it, but they're going to give you that much higher quality look on your finished product. And here's an example. So I took the same product, and I engraved it on the laser, and then I took a photo right on my white table in my lab using just office lights with a standard iPhone camera. No special camera, no special lighting, nothing. I just took that photo. Then I took that same product and stuck it in my light box, turned the light on, and took the same photograph. No editing, no modification to this photo whatsoever, but you can see the difference. And that's what a light box is going to do. If you post the photo of the one on the right here on your Instagram account versus the one on the left, they're going to pass right over it because it does not have that wow factor. It doesn't pop. It doesn't stand out. And so the light box that I bought was like $180, but because it's much larger to handle bigger products. If you're dealing with just jewelry and stuff like that, you can get some of the 30, 40, 50 ones, some on Amazon for $70 to $80 that do a great job. Just make sure they have the built-in LED lights inside the actual box. And then as I go back here, you can see here the ability to kind of flap around so you don't get those glare and stuff on your physical products that you see here, so that you can shoot straight down on it. You can open the flap to keep any type of glare, and it gives you that perfectly white outline and graphic, and it just gives you the much, much better finished looking product that when you post it, it's going to give your company that perception of value, and it's going to give you that output. Another one is, of course, packaging. When your finished product, laser cut and engraved, is in something like laser cut foam and displayed like this, it always gives that higher perception of value, makes your product stand out. So even if it's something you're displaying in a window or on, for your photograph on your Instagram or your Etsy site or your Pinterest site, you go buy some polyurethane foam, trace around some of your objects and stick it into the phone for that initial image. Or if you're giving it a higher end product to the customer, stick it into the foam. And then when you give them that price tag for the time and effort to do that, they're going to be more apt to pay the higher prices because it is presented in a much nicer finished looking product. Another way to set yourself apart is to invest in more diverse technologies, of course. The Flex is a great example of this because it integrates two laser sources into one laser machine. Trotec laser systems are all ready. All the Speedy series is ready for Flex. What this means is if you want the ability to add additional laser wavelengths to your machine, you have that ability. And what this does for you is it allows you to expand into materials and products you couldn't do before. A CO2 laser will engrave, mark, and cut, approximately, I have estimated around 80% of all materials on this planet. Doesn't do a great job on all of them, and it won't necessarily cut all of them, but it'll do something to about 80% of the materials. That next 15 to 20% can be mostly processed with a fiber laser. I would say about 15%, maybe 18% can be processed. There are still a few percents that won't work with either, but the fiber laser is going to give you an additional 15% of materials and some overlap. It gives you the ability to mark directly into metals, which a CO2 laser won't do. It will change colors of plastics. And here's some examples of an application. The one I showed kind of earlier, the 3D checkering into the knife handle with wood, and then the fiber mark onto the blade. The fiber mark will actually be subsurface into the metal. It's not like your Surmark compound or metal marking compound that is a black fused mark or a glass fused mark. It is actually into the metal. And so the benefit of this technology is that it's going to give you the ability to do all at the same time. So one push of a button, I'm able to take a file like this in grayscale, and then I can engrave the fiber laser first in this case, and I just set it apart by color. So the color the laser sees as one color is the fiber laser. It assigns the power settings that you selected. In this case, it would be metal for blue, or I would assign the setting for blue, and then I would assign a fiber laser to that. Then it's going to switch wavelengths and then engrave with a different wavelength, in this case, the CO2 on the blade, on the handle in this case, and it's going to do this with one push of a button. So I push start. The laser does all of the above. It switches wavelengths automatically. It knows that the color blue is going to be fiber laser because I've assigned it that. And then it assigns the wood, of course, and it even changes the focus in between one color to the next. So what this is doing is it's setting you apart from the competition because you have the ability by technology in order to expand your product offerings beyond that of what most laser operators and owners have. Only a small percentage of laser operators and owners have the fiber or the flex capability or the flex system that was set up with both wavelengths at the same time. So definitely will stand you apart from your competition. Now, say you're at that next level. You've been making personalized products forever, and you're looking to really expand into the next level. And this, the next is kind of showing you some laser technology for high volume production. You're no longer making, vacuum tumblers by the dozen. You're making them by the thousands a day, and so you want to jump to that next level. Well, that is the next segment here, is how to use technology to dramatically improve your volume production. Some of the ones I've already shown you, like templates and fixtures, or like using the little laser hack I showed you earlier to show engraving 3 tumblers at a time. Making templates definitely are something that can dramatically improve, especially if you got like flat objects. Here's a QR code you can scan to make those, learn how to make templates and really kind of optimize your productivity if you don't know how to do that already. But the next is, of course, increasing your productivity on single type objects. And so, example, a ballpoint pen would take 15 seconds, but in order to, when you run them in a fixture, they're going to take 6 seconds a piece. And so that fixture can really, really improve on your time consuming handling due to individual placement of one at a time, or small fixtures. Or if you got a small fixture that only runs 3 or 4 or 5 at a time, build a large one. The less you're filling up one. And I do also suggest, if you're running high volume, always make 2 fixtures of matching. So when it's like baking cookies, when one is finished, you have another fixture all loaded with pens or widgets or whatever you're planning on processing. And you can slide that in, push start. So the more the laser's down, the less money you're making. So make 2 fixtures, high production. Now, if that's not enough productivity, and maybe a second machine is not worth it, then maybe you want to look into galvo technology. Galvo technology is kind of the pinnacle when it comes to high production, especially into gift items on this. Galvo technology is something Trotec also offers here. And what it will give you the ability is, it is going to be able to process most of these flatbed type materials 10 times, up to 10 times faster than your flatbed laser systems. And the benefit of it is, it's a bit more in cost up front, but when you're producing products 10 times faster and the finished product is coming out 10 times as product on one single unit, you can see what kind of return on investment you're going to get. These systems come in both CO2 and fiber lasers with field sizes up to 51.2 by 17.7 inches. I'm going to give you a little video here, kind of shows you some of the diversity and shows you some of the engraving. It does have some audio, so I'm going to set aside so that you can take a listen and watch the galvo in action. Okay, you can see that right there is it's incredible, and those times that you saw, or the physical products that you saw being engraved, were actual times. It's amazing to watch. It almost seems like magic how fast they are. And I know a customer that's currently doing their metal flash drives, and then they're also doing the stainless steel straws, the little straws to kind of replace the plastic out there. It's become another real possible probable trend, and something I didn't really touch on because it's just kind of some people are doing it very well. The fiber laser like this is outstanding. It gives you the ability to very quickly and easily etch these little fiber or like flash drives and the metal straws and stuff like that, and make it very, very profitable. The next is a brand new product feature offering from Trotec Laser. It's the 3D Galvo laser system. Especially how popular some of these like tumblers and stuff are, is the ability to try to engrave around an object without having to stick one at a time into the rotary and rotate them around. And so this new technology is that we have offered now from Trotec, and it's just coming out. It will literally give you the ability to actually engrave inside cylinders and cones and tubes and round bowls, tilted planes up to 60 degrees without the need of a rotary, by using depth mapping and software and computers and features within hardware that actually actively seek what the focus point is and vary the X, Y, and Z axis as you're engraving around an object without physically rotating it. And so I have Andy Wellens, which is our industrial marketing manager, here to give you a quick demonstration on how this works.
Hi, I'm Andy Wellens, Industrial Sales Manager for Trotec Laser. I'm excited to introduce the new Trotec 3D Galvo. It gives you the ability to mark a graphic around a round object or a sphere without a rotary device that would turn the object during marking. This is available in our Speed Marker family of fiber lasers. So an important step is to get an accurate measurement of the diameter. In this case, we have these water bottles. They are 1.77 inches. We also have a fixture built so that we have repeatable location. It does not have to hold the parts, just have a repeatable location for placement. In the software, it's very simple to set up. As you can see, we already have our graphic loaded. And in the software, you can click on 3D projection and a new 3D object. You can see we have three choices: an inclined plane, which would be a positioned stationary object that has an angle. It gives you the ability to mark consistently along that angle. We have a sphere, which could be a ball or any round object, and then a cylinder, as we have. So we're going to choose cylinder. And then the next step is, are we marking on the outside of that cylinder or the inside? So we choose outside. And as you can see, we have 3 points that we need to record. The first one being the diameter that we know is 1.77 inches. So we enter the diameter of the object, and then you can see the first position is the top portion of where your graphic will be positioned on the object. So we will move our bottles into the marking area. And this position is X, Y, and Z. The Z position is very important. In this case, we are using the Trotec Focus Finder, which is 2 red dots that give you an accurate positioning of the Z axis. You want to make sure that it is in the center of your bottle. And then, as I said, the first point is the top portion of where your graphic is going. So the first position is the top portion of the graphic. Once we have it, you apply the current axis position. And as you can see, it recorded the X, Y, and Z position. The next step is very simple in that now you're going to the bottom of that graphic. We kept the other positions the same because it is a consistent round object. So once we apply this, now we have our top point, bottom point, and diameter entered. So once we say OK, it gives us a representation on the right-hand side of the screen. And as you can see, you can zoom, you can rotate, so you can get a really good representation of where the logo is, and importantly, how much does it wrap around your part. So you can see how much it will go around the object. So it is that simple to set up the Trotec 3D Galvo. For the multiple bottle marking, you can see that we've created a program that has each individual bottle with its own 3D positioning. This gives us the ability to do all three in the same cycle. Thank you for your time today. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about the new Trotec 3D Galvo or our speed marker systems, please call us or visit our website at troteclaser.com.
Okay, thank you, Andy. That is the reason of this technology is a game changer, in my opinion. It is going to take that problem of wrapping around objects and eliminate it, and then combine that with Galvo technology that can physically move 10 times faster than a flatbed, and then use segmentation, which allows you to use Galvo technology on a very large field. It's going to allow you to take things like the vacuum tumblers and cups and stuff like that that are very common in the personalization marketplace, and then allow you to load up, 10, 20, 30 of them at a time. Once it's all set up into a template, a fixture, what Andy just showed you, once that's set up, it's a matter of just rinse and repeat. Put more bottles in there, push start, let the laser system immediately do all the different work over the top of it, wrapping around this object with no distortion, and it's going to dramatically improve the productivity on something like this. No longer requiring a rotary in that marketplace is huge, especially for you folks that are doing a lot of this. And so this technology is now available. You can get it from the Trotec USA location. We have, as you can see there, finished actual products in our office in Michigan. So go ahead and contact us if you want to know more on this. But in this marketplace, I can't wait to play with one. I haven't got a chance yet, but it's truly exciting to see the level of technology expanding to be able to wrap around objects without actually rotating that object. Now, of course, it can't do it 360 degrees, but you're only limited up to a certain amount of distance. But definitely new and exciting technologies that are coming out by Trotec that will expand the ability in this marketplace. Now, we're almost finished here. A few different resources for you, some of the different ones that I've used today. These are 3 different companies that I highly suggest if you are looking to do a lot of personalization or maybe looking for expanded personalized product. These are 3 companies that I have used for 20 years, all outstanding companies that produce high-end, very, very lucrative, high return type products. Colorado Heirloom is one of my favorite companies when it comes to making personalized, sustainable wood products, specifically for the laser industry. They've been out there forever. They make boxes and shapes and all different types of woods, really, really high grade, high quality stuff. JDS Industries, of course, I've talked about them many times today with the Leatherette products, and I think they sell everything else. They're basically the Amazon of the laser industry, in my opinion. They sell just about everything. So if you're not using JDS, and it's definitely someone that is going to give you that diversity of products. And then the third one here on the bricks and the stone and a lot of the Laser Sketch is a company that is going to give you a lot of those types of stone and brick, and they do the agate and the onyx slices and stuff like that, and a lot of those really kind of high-end type products like that. And so there are, of course, a lot of other companies out, but these are 3 that I highly recommend and have had very, very good luck with. Consistent, high quality products that are at a fair price, and the other nice thing is that they have distribution all over the United States. And so scan these QR codes if you are looking to maybe get into this, or if you want to expand your existing product line, maybe use one, but not all 3. Little bit about the Trotec materials as well. Deal of the month on our Trotec materials this month under the promo code May-promo 2021, you get free shipping on online orders of $100 or more. If you want to scan this QR code and type in that promo code, you will, of course, get that promotion on any of our products for the month of May. If you have missed any of my other online seminars, Third Thursday workshops, here are a list of the ones that I have come out. That's the one thing this pandemic has definitely improved upon is the online content. Instead of doing trade shows, I have spent all my time creating courses, design, laser hacks, and all this other online content. And I think the amount of content that I've created in this last year tripled the amount that we had online all in general, at least for Trotec USA. So it has been a benefit to you folks out there that are looking for that online content. Scan this QR code. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you'll be kept up to date. And then you can, of course, watch any of these seminars at your leisure on glass engraving, textiles, signage, wood, large format, Corel Draw. I actually have 2 Corel Draw, both basics and the advanced one. But there are, and of course, I've got like 38 laser hacks, individual laser hacks out there, as well as a new series that I have just started with called Will It Laser, where I put the bizarre, unique, weird items into the laser system and give it a try. I mean, I think my last one was Play-Doh. We did what was another one we did? The beef jerky was another one. So we've had some fun with that one. So take a look at our QR code, scan this QR code, take a look at our YouTube channel, and keep up with us for all these new fun and exciting applications. All right, we are finished here. I'm now going to be joined by Darrell Stephens to answer your questions, and we can get these questions answered and let you continue with your day. Welcome, Darrell.
Hi, great job, Dave. Man, a lot of information.
Did you learn stuff?
I did.
Well, good. Good to have you. Thank you for joining me again. Darrell has joined me many times in the past. Definitely a wealth of knowledge. He's been around this industry almost as long as I have. He's seen it, touched it, worked with it. And so he can give a different perspective, kind of being out with the customers, working with the salespeople as a sales manager for Trotec. So let's go ahead and move forward here with our questions. And Darrell and myself can help you maybe answer these questions. What is the temperature resistance of the Trolays? And can it be used in a commercial dishwasher to clean it? That's an interesting question. I mean, it is made of an ABS and acrylic-based material, so I can't see why the temperature of a dishwasher would damage it. I would not do it on hot because it might cause it to warp or distort. Definitely a cold water rinsing, I can't see why that would hurt it. But that's something you may want to run some tests on. Your thoughts, Darrell?
Yeah, the same thing. The cold water, because again, as you add heat to the plastic, you may get it to curl, especially if there's been a lot of material removed in the engraving. The other is test a scrap piece, because there are chemicals in a commercial dishwasher that may bleed the coloring on the surface. So just try it, but test it.
That's a good one. That is a question I don't have an actual answer to. I don't have a commercial dishwasher in my back room to try, but yeah, definitely worth a test. But it's not going to hurt the dishwasher, but it may be something I would test before you proceed with confirming any type of production. Can PCB materials be cut and engraved safely? Yes. PCB meaning your FR4 and G10 type materials, fiberglass, resin-based compounds. The answer is yes and no. It can be engraved. In most cases, you will see a legible, kind of a lightish mark, especially if you engrave over like the copper cladding, you can usually get good contrast. If it's just engraving on the regular PCB-based materials, the contrast may be too low for like a barcode. Cutting, however, because it is glass-based, the answer is yes, it will cut, but it is not worth it. The quality is extremely poor. It produces a lot of carbon on the edge, which can be conductive. So I would not suggest cutting it out unless the edges are not going to be seen, or it's something that is possible. Air assist is recommended, but I don't recommend cutting it unless you have no other method of doing that. Any experience with this yourself, Darrell?
Yeah, pretty much the same effect. Doing something to identify circuits or things on the board for marking, not a big deal. but as you cut it, you're going to get a lot of flame up and a really bad carbon black edge that in most cases isn't something you're going to want to sell.
Yeah, I had a customer do this one time and used it for electronics, and the carbon was conductive, and so it caused shorts on his board. So it can't be used for anything in the electronic side. Maybe to like break the little tabs out, possibly, where it's a very, very small amount, where instead of breaking it out by mechanical means. But I'd suggest just engraving it. Will the fiber laser engrave leather? Surprisingly, yes, but not very good. It really depends on the type of leather and the pigments in the leather. I don't suggest that. In my experience, natural blonde vegetable tan leather will not do anything, but yet your black leather that has been dyed will produce some contrast. So my suggestion is to try it. It's not going to hurt anything. Have you ever done this, Darrell?
I have tried, and it really does depend on the leather. The one challenge you have with it is most of your Galvo fiber lasers may not have a lot of exhaust, so it's really smoky and stinky. So if you got to make sure you have exhaust when you have leather.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I found, like I say, the dark leather was the only one that kind of sort of worked. But in all, I would probably stay away from fiber laser and leather.
Yep.
What lens should I use when cutting a template or jig? What are good materials to use to create a jig? Great question, Adele. This is kind of up to you. My suggestion, usually when creating a jig, is I like to use acrylic. The reason I don't like to use wood as much is because my templates tend to warp over time. Wood will tend to warp even if I use plywood or MDF. With moisture and changes to the environment, I have found that you stick them in the laser and they don't sit flat anymore. Where if you use acrylics, and then you also, when you store your templates, make sure that they're stored not sitting upright. You want them to sit parallel and be stacked properly so that they are kept perfectly flat, because even acrylic will warp over time on larger ones. And so you stay with acrylics and plastics. The lens that you would use really depends on the thickness. Standard 2-inch lens in almost all cases, unless you're cutting really thick material. MDF is another good material, but again, it does warp. I do suggest that you keep it in a temperature controlled environment if you do want to use woods. And then keep it level and flat. Don't lean it up against a wall somewhere, because when you pick it up, it's going to be that U shape over time. And maybe when you need that fixture in 2 months or a year later, you either have to clamp it down or it just becomes ineffective and you have to make another one. And Darrell, you concur?
I do. One little trick on templates too is always make sure, no matter how much you trust where you get your material, cut that outside edge, because not always are they straight or measured correctly. So you want to create your entire template with your cuts and your system. And then, like you said, on the acrylic, I like trays because it reinforces the thickness of it to give it a little more rigidity.
Yeah, great point. Trays where you put a base underneath of it and make sure you have little finger holes into it. If you scan my template QR code that I showed earlier, it kind of shows you all that process. And as I said earlier, whenever you make a template, make 2 of them, because it's baking cookies. You don't want that laser stopping. You want the tray to be loaded and ready to go. You can slide it in when the one finishes, so you can load the other one, so you get the most efficiency. What lasers are compatible with Ruby? Here's a good one for you, Darrell.
Yeah, our Speedy line is compatible, and I believe I want to say our SP500, but I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, it just came out. The SP500 will be available here shortly, and as Ruby becomes more apparent in the industry, and it is launched later this year, more and more laser systems in our product line will support it, and eventually all of them. Where did the high-end wood thumb drive and maple box come from? I just picked that up on Amazon. just went onto Amazon and typed in wooden flash drive, and I found one that actually had the box. So, and then I usually specify when I'm searching on something like that is the type of wood. So I wanted maple because I know it produces high contrast. I like to stick with your light toned woods because they produce the best contrast, like your maple and cherry, your birch, and stay away from, you know, other materials. But bamboo works really well. But yeah, just standard Amazon is where I got that from. If I'm getting into the market and want to send out photo samples to my existing customers, what would you recommend as a good value product to use? Photos can be tricky, especially if you're just getting into it. I do suggest watching my photo engraving seminar. I have an entire seminar on just processing photos, so you truly understand the scopes of processing laser photos. Materials is going to depend on your customers and where you're at. I mean, stick with natural materials as I specified earlier. It's going to always look better photographed. And so, you know, if you're in a marketplace like Texas and, you know, leather is very popular, do your photos on leather. Beautifully responds. If wood is wood is always a popular one for photographs. Gives that warm feel and tends to have a much higher perceived adoption and better value. Stone can sometimes feel cold, and so some people don't necessarily like stone. It's also more expensive. It's heavier to ship. So I would stick with like leathers and woods, light types, and then watch my photo seminar to really get an understanding of what materials and processes to do the best photographs. Anything you want to add, Darrell?
Just two little tricks, I think, on the photos. One, make sure you frame it and have it completed where the customer is going to have an idea of how to display it. Sometimes we forget that the customer may not have that vision of you know, where it would go. The other is when I had my shop in Arizona, we partnered with a lot of photography studios because they had high quality photos. And when I sent them samples, I really would engage them in a conversation of, can you send me a couple sample photos of your work that I can reproduce, and then we can display those in your shop and do kind of a partnership. And it just, anytime you can have your customer's artwork or image on it, there's more of a buy-in to the scenario, and they're much more willing to display and work with you on that.
Great advice. What thickness for acrylic templates? I mean, it really depends on the material. I typically will use just 1/8 or 3 millimeter thickness for templates, but it really depends on your product you're making the template for. If that product has a lot of curvature, say you're doing carabiners and they're not going to fit into an 1/8, you may need to do a 1/4 inch, for example. So it really depends on the material or the product that you're making the template for, but it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that it works. Do a test. I always suggest make a small little single cutout out of a scrap piece of material. Make sure everything fits together first and looks good and it holds good. You can easily get it in and out into the material on whatever thickness you decide before you create that template. Bamboo doesn't etch very dark. Any suggestion for darkening? That's a great question. Bamboo can be tricky. I tend to find myself engraving with a lot more laser power at a slower speed to get that contrast out of it. So it does take a little bit more time to get that darkness. Lasersketch.com makes like this brush-in type darkening material you can go to. And so as long as the wood has been clear coated, and most of the nicer products have already been clear coated, so they have a lacquer or polyurethane coating onto it first, then you engrave into it and you can brush this darkening, and some of them even use a liquid darkening where it kind of rubs into the engraving and kind of doesn't go into the clear coat on the surface, and then gives you that darker response. So Laser Sketch, I know, is the only one that I know has darkening material for doing this. The other option is, of course, masking it and then engraving through it and then paint filling it and then peeling the mask. Any advice that you have on this, Darrell?
I've had a couple customers do some unique things. I've had some that would take like turtle wax and actually rub it on the surface of the material first, especially if it was already finished, and then use shoe polish. And it actually, because they put the turtle wax on it, wiped off real easy. Obviously, if they don't do the turtle wax, they could surely do the stenciling, like you said, and everything from aerosol spray to I've had some people use toner.
That's what I was just about to say. The toner, which is or powder coating paint, you can just kind of brush that down in, and it's got a carbon effect. And especially right out of the laser after it's cleaned, it's still kind of in a molten state, and everything's kind of gooey and liquidy, and it kind of absorbs that toner and gives you that realistic wood char look without actually looking like you paint filled it. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But the one thing I do suggest, like with the shoe polish and paints and stuff like that, is to be careful. If you stick it down inside, sometimes that paint will absorb into the grain of the wood. And that, especially bamboo, which has really, really long grains, you'll see the paint like absorbed and like wick up the sides, and it can make your edges look shoddy. And so if you are paint filling it, I suggest mask it, engrave through the mask, and then after it's done engraving, spray down into the engraving with a clear coat to seal it. Let that dry, and then you can color fill it with any color you want, guaranteeing that that leaching effect won't happen into the surface. But the powder stuff works great because that just gives you a darkening effect without having to do all these other little tricks. But it sounds like you've run into the same scenarios that we all have when it comes to darkening on some woods. Missed you at the Graphic Expo. Oh, great job, Darrell. Yeah, Darrell's took the step up. Unfortunately, I couldn't do the Graphics Expo this year because you know, I was busy at work building this seminar, and I didn't have time to do both, unfortunately. So Darrell stepped up and did my presentation for the laser hacks, and apparently did a great job. Thank you, Darrell.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate the compliment.
I use a tablespoon of baking soda and a small amount of water bottle and the mist on the wood to let engrave, and it comes out darker. Okay, that is it's an odd method. I have not tried that. I'd have to confirm that because the laser is vaporizing the wood, and so unless for some reason there's residue left over that's being turned to a carbon and kind of falling into the engraving, maybe something I'd have to try. Interesting little anecdote, Jeff. I'll have to give that a shot and see how it works. Thanks for the advice. Oh, you're very welcome, Jeff. Thank you. All right, perfect. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Thank you, Darrell, for joining me for this webinar, and we'll see you next month on the next month's third Thursday on acrylics, I believe.
Have a great day, guys.